to like.
So I was just about to say I'm shitting on McDonald's, but to be honest, one of my main staples was a double quarter pounder with cheese plain. I would just take the bread off and eat the meat patties, and it was like really weird how I would have to eat it. I'd be like holding, or I'd eat it out of the bun and like push the meat through to hold it so I didn't get all the grease and cheese all over me. But I will say this: I didn't find that double cheeseburger much different than anyone else's. And so that was something like when it comes to like when I was hungry, that hit the spot. And I was pretty good with that. Like where I was like, all right, it was the monotony of eating it constantly. But as far as like you said, I have since then been in and like I'm eating better now and healthy choices and eating better meat and everything. But one night it was late and I was in the middle of nowhere and I went to Wendy's and got 3 single patties together with a slice of cheese and went to town on it.
Well, Mike, you just did the same thing. I think you talked because you're in the East Coast right now. I'm out here in California. Eddie's also out in North Carolina, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So like Mike just sent me a text. He's like, hey, you know what Mike was talking about, like the failing F and the good F, you know, I call it best practices. And, you know, so what in this endeavor with Eddie, it was really, you know, you take the environment, the landscape, and you just simply perform your best practices. So then we start going into this thing called like the Pareto rule, you know, 80-20. And surprisingly, you know, you can get very, you know, fair and decent results. But I think what we've proven right now is, can I bring up this data? Because the data is remarkable.
Sure.
And this really takes, like you saying, oh, I hate McDonald's and that, because this data here, I actually knew it was going to be along the lines of this, but to see it. And then, so let's first slow down. So Mike, you guys had this concept. You brought me on board and said, hey, you know, we want you to be technical advisor because I'm kind of a geek with the numbers and such. So first off, thank you. And I'm so stoked I was able to help you guys out. What I requested in the beginning of this was Eddie needed to get blood work, and the blood work. So we got a hormone panel just to make sure that, you know, where is he standing? So the hormone panel was actually quite good. I would say it was like actually, matter of fact, above average, and for your age, even more so. The cholesterol panel that you owned. So, you know, Eddie always makes kind of makes goof and shticks about his health and stuff, but I got to be honest with you, your cholesterol panel or lipoprotein panel is remarkably good. Everything is in range. The only thing that was a little bit goofy was a little bit of a high HbA1c, which is a 3-month marker of glycated proteins in blood. In English, that means that is just a 3-month snapshot of your blood glucose. So quickly, I'll just go ahead and digress the data, and let me slow down. I needed Eddie to get a Dexa scan. A Dexa is a dual X-ray absorptiometry. Recommend for anyone who's an athlete or anyone who wants to know about themselves, because we get a metric of bone density, lean body tissue or lean muscle tissue being organs and connective tissue, muscles and such. Then we also, what's important to me is we find out the disposition of adipose storage on the body. Where does the fat sit on the body? For me as a functional health practitioner, when I see this, it tells me if there's, you know, if I see that's a lot of what we call visceral obesity or adiposity at the midline, this tells me that this person is more in range of metabolic derangement, as it's called. So in Eddie's case, the Dexa scan was pretty darn good in the beginning, especially for your age and frankly for how much you train. You know, you do train, but even on this endeavor here, you know what, train on a train. I mean, the amount of traveling you do, bro, and how I became intimate with what you do as your work experience. This was such an unreal experiment because a lot of people that I work with and a lot of people who are trying to lose weight, life doesn't stop. Family doesn't stop. The little chunk, your daughter, they don't stop. So the best practices notion, or the good F versus the bad F rather, is such a fantastic metaphor. So when we got the Dexa scan, the reason we wanted all this is because data is not a liar. Our emotions are. So what I'd like to do is let me just quickly go over like the Dexa scan, and if you guys want me to, I can discuss the lipoprotein panel. So first off, Eddie lost. This is remarkable. He lost 4.5 pounds of fat. So we had a Dexa scan performed before day 0, and then we had a Dexa scan, I think it was day 31. What is really, really remarkable here, and this is going to really, and I'd like to definitely get into this. So he lost 4.5 pounds of fat, but you gained 3.1 pounds of muscle. So this is remarkable because you're telling me that you gained, you know, 0.7 pounds or whatever, forgive me for the numbers, but a week during this endeavor eating McDonald's. And there's a very fair explanation to that. You lost 1.4 pounds of total weight. So you only lost 1.4 pounds of like net weight, if you will. You lost 2.4% of body fat, which is simply remarkable. And it would be remarkable if you were eating, out of the house. So for instance, I worked with your wife, Lauren. These numbers and these things are stuff that we got, but it was after I think we worked a total of like 12 weeks. We got to there in 8 weeks. So anyways, the point is that these numbers and this change or inflection with your body composition is remarkable by itself. The fact that it was done completely at McDonald's is one, it makes people are incredulous about it. When I saw it, I was like, but if you guys remember when we first had the podcast, I said that I said, hey, I think we could do a body recomposition here. So for those, I'm sure all of the people listening know what a body recomp is, but about a body recomp is simply the goal is to lose the least amount of fat least amount of muscle and spare the most amount of muscle and lose the most amount of fat. When we diet, there's typically a ratio, and it's almost like 80% muscle and 20% fat. So what we try to do is we try to, eat or have you eat and live in a way that spares muscle tissue. So how do we do that? Well, we need to eat sufficient amounts of protein because eating a correct bolus or a nutritional medical amount of protein induces a thing called muscle protein synthesis. So I've always talked to you about like, dude, you got to eat more protein. It's not just eating a shit ton of protein. It's about eating the correct threshold of protein. So this endeavor here with what you've done by proxy, as you said earlier, it was almost like it was carnivore, is put you into a threshold or a place with your protein intake that frankly, you've probably never been at because literally all you were eating was like meat. And then we had snippets or a ratio of carbohydrate that was in the foods or around the foods, being French fries here and there, and then the chicken McNuggets. So, so that being said, I expected this. The blood data, though, I frankly didn't expect. And this is really, really remarkable. And shout out to McDonald's, man, because I am familiar with how they do their meats and stuff. And like I said, if someone's trying to get protein in and it's affordable, go over to Dirty Ron's because they got you. So let me quickly cover on the lipoproteins, then I'll go ahead and shut up. So your first data was 195. Underneath 200 is a good reading. At the end of the duration, you were at 192. Your cholesterol actually dropped. Your triglycerides, which is fat as energy in blood, remarkable. First off, anything under 150 is clinically in range. Your data was 68. This is fantastic. Anything under 75 is really, really exceptional, in my opinion.
What if I died right now while we were talking from it? I just went.
Well, I call the Croc family and I get pissed. No, I mean, let me finish this though because this is incredible. Your triglycerides went up to 72. So my marker for elite numbers is 75. So your triglycerides went up 4 points. 30 days of eating garbage. Okay, your high density lipids, which is the good type, it was 61 on day 0. And when we got the blood work from, a shout out to Let's Get Checked, by the way, he supported the endeavor.
Can I interrupt for a second? Because there's a couple questions I have about this. So if someone's like, we say my triglycerides went up, that's bad. I mean, that's not good for them to go up. Or do you want them to go up?
Well, actually, no. So what we want to do is we want to see a range. So what I anticipated here was because of the amount of fats and saturated fats that are in the foods, albeit no trans fats, I anticipated your numbers to go up systemically, remarkably.
But my point that I was going to make is this is just over 30 days. Let's say hypothetically I stayed on this for a year. Would my triglycerides just be through the roof if it's going up 4 points every single month? Is it going to keep, adding up? Or
that's a great question, Eddie. So for me to have the temerity to say, well, matter of fact, no or yes. That's why with my work and, when I do nutrition with people, I always talk about the experiment being the experience and the experience is the experiment. We have to look at you as an individual. The pharmacodynamics of medication and foods and the interaction with the person speak to themselves. So like, for instance, I'm Mr. Strict, on it with my nutrition. Dude, your blood panel is innately better than mine. You're on the road all the time, kind of eating foods that I frankly don't. So there is an individuality of metabolism here, but this is what's remarkable about it. And I think it has to speak to like the quality of meat and the way there's no preservative, there's no fillers. It's 100% meat, whether it's the chicken, the beef. And I just double checked on all that data before we got on, started the show. So, but let me just finish this real fast because it gets even more remarkable. So your HDL, which should be the negative, or rather the positive, that went up.
Good cholesterol.
Your good cholesterol went up.
That's good.
From 61 to 65. Now your LDL, so this is the one that we'll want to look at, and this is the one that's attached to this one called ApoB, and like the lipoprotein that's significant with atherosclerotic conditions and heart attacks. Brother, your LDL was at 117, which is in range. It stayed 117. Didn't even move. So now we talk about the HDL percentage, where the higher is the better. It was 31.9 starting, and now it's 33.4 at the end. Your HbA1c. So I've always been concerned about this because I frankly think that your body doesn't do well with glucose. I've kind of known this, like just by comments and being your homie and talking to you all the time. So your HbA1c was at 5.6 and it dropped to 5.4. So you went from being like super clinically pre-diabetic, diabetic, depending on who's looking at it. But in my opinion, if you're pre-diabetic, you're on the road. It dropped to 5.4, and this is in the course of 30 days. So when you take those two data sets, the body composition thing, which is like, whoa, that's crazy. But then you take the blood work and you overlay the two, it's really easy to be incredulous and be like, oh my gosh, like it's remarkable, man. So if you were to do this for a year, well, first the thing is, it's like, you talking about being like, you're like, man, I'm eating like this all the time. What we call that is pallet boredom. So like in my working with clients, it's like when I get them to clean up their food is we immediately start chasing things that hit what we call the hedonic reward, the 5 palate continents, and also the context and texture of food, crunchiness. I know this, like if I don't eat crunchy food after a while, it creates like a weird, it's not a craving, but it's like a hankering. So my work with you was to try and accommodate you and create a variance that made it enjoyable and diminish this palate boredom, if you will. So would it go up for a year of eating? I would have to believe so. But then again, I mean, the data here at 30 days, and let me slow down. I've seen with clients of mine, I've had emphatic, remarkable changes where clients have just gone out and got blood work like 12 days in after like just changing their food. That being said, is that I feel that our bodies are keen on being healthy. It's almost like they want to be given proxy and permission to get healthy. But anyways, this data, Eddie, is remarkable.